Hello, my name is Allie, and I'm a high school English teacher in Forest Grove. I live down the street, though, so I have to say that it was really nice to shorten the commute a little bit today. My journey toward proficiency-based teaching and learning started in the fall of 2008 when I was a third-year teacher, and I was struggling. I was in danger of being one of the 50% of our teachers that leave the profession after the first several years. And the reason for that is that my classroom didn't look how I expected it to. My students lacked the motivation and the engagement and the skills that I had assumed that they would have. And in order to stay in the profession, I needed an answer. Luckily, at that same time, my building administrators were also grappling with a problem, which was that we had upwards of 30 valedictorians, like Diane just said. And when you looked at their SAT and ACT scores, when you looked at their AP scores, they were all below average. So how are we sending these students into the world saying that they were valedictorians when in reality they didn't have the skills to back up that status? I attended a BEC workshop in the fall of 2008 led by Tamara and Diane, and that's where I found my answer. I found the opportunity to engage and empower students in my classroom through proficiency-based teaching and learning. I was so excited, I was so inspired that I immediately went back to my students and said, we're trying something different. And we changed everything around from that day forward. I created a transparent system which said to students exactly what was expected of them in order to get an A, a B, a C in my class. And from that day forward, the kids knew exactly what was expected of them and moved toward those goals. This was incredibly powerful because I had realized during this process of reflection that I was grading students based on whether they smiled and nodded when I was talking in front of the room instead of based on what their actual skills were and what they were able to do. During this time, I created scoring guides and assessments that communicated to students, like I just said, those transparent and clear expectations. We started moving toward proficiency and mastery in the essential standards, and there was an emphasis during this time on critical thinking and analysis. So it wasn't just about reading a book and understanding it. In order to get an A in a class, a student had to do more. They had to think critically, they had to problem solve, they had to analyze. And this was the first time that those skills were being valued in my classroom. I hate to admit it, but it's true. It was proficiency that inspired me to really look at what I was asking my students to do and ask them to do more. What I decided to do was build a classroom where 90% of the work that we did was based on their proficiency and mastery in those essential standards. Only 10% was based on the career-related learning standards of problem solving and teamwork, communication. And so students were still being held accountable for those important skills, but the majority of their grade was about what they were able to do academically. And that made me feel like I was communicating, like Diane said, authentic grades to both students and parents and colleges about what a student was capable of. Another thing that I really love about this system is that it ensures that our at-risk students have an opportunity to demonstrate proficiency throughout the entire semester. Prior to grading by proficiency in my classroom, I would have students who in the first 6 weeks would dig a hole so deep that there was no way for them to get out of it. So they would still be in a classroom for another 12 weeks knowing that they would not be able to pass the class. That would mean that they would disrupt other students, and it became this kind of domino effect in my room. With proficiency, there's always an opportunity for a student to find success up until that very last moment. And for many of us teachers, even that last moment of the final exam is not the last moment because we can chase them down even after that to try and get them to demonstrate proficiency. Additionally, as an honors and AP teacher, I teach several students who are used to getting A's. They've always gotten A's because they're good kids. They behave in class, they raise their hand, they do all of those things that we expect them to do from a behavioral standpoint. But so many of those students were not thinking critically, were not analyzing the work. Instead, they were just showing us behaviorally that they had the skills that we were looking for. What I can say is that through proficiency, those students are now being challenged. They're fighting for their A's instead of just having them handed to them because it's what they've always gotten. When I initially piloted credit by proficiency in my room, I was teaching honors 9th graders at the time, and they asked me for an elementary style star board chart in order to mark their progress. And here I am thinking that these 14 and 15-year-olds want me to think that they're so mature and sophisticated, and they want an elementary style star board in order to put stickers on it to show what they know. And so we had stickers that were busy bees for proficiency, and the idea was supposed to be that they were still busy because they were working toward mastery. And then once they hit mastery, they would get a fat frog sticker, which was supposed to insinuate that they were sitting pretty. They'd done everything that they needed to do. And I would have students come up to me with that fat frog sticker on their thumb before they put it on the starboard chart and say, I have never worked harder for anything in my entire life, and it's a sticker. But I can say that the culture in my room has changed as a result of proficiency-based teaching and learning. I have kids that want to learn and are curious, they're motivated, they're engaged, and that wasn't the case previously. A few things that I think of as successes when I think about this transition. The first one, that it's changed my classroom conversations. It's changed the way that I communicate with students. They used to come up to me and say, what do I need to do to get an A? Or what do I need to do to pass your class? Meaning that they would just need to do a handful of 5-point assignments, and that would be the difference between an A and a B, or a C and a D. Now students approach me and say, what do I need to show you that I know in order to get an A? Or what do I need to show you that I know in order to pass your class? Which is a huge difference. And it's really, I would say, gotten rid of completely the stress and the anxiety that I would feel when I was turning in grades at the end of the semester, because I know now that the grades that I turn in are authentic. Another thing, increased excitement and engagement in my classroom. It's a fun place to be. Whereas prior to grading by proficiency, I think maybe it wasn't as fun as it is now. And then lastly, I can say that I've lowered my failure rate in my classroom while increasing the rigor and the relevance of what we do, which I think is a victory in itself, because more kids are being successful with more rigorous and challenging content. So proficiency has certainly changed my life. It's the reason why I'm going to go and teach some squirrely kids today. I'm not sure that I would have been in that position if Diane and Tamara and the BEC had not come in and showed me a better way. So thank you very much.
Superintendent of Public Instruction for the State of Oregon, Susan Castillo, works tirelessly to improve the educational needs of children at all levels, and is working closely with Governor Kitzhaber on his mission to create a seamless 0 to 20 education system. Susan Castillo most recently was invited to the White House by the President Obama to announce his plans to change the No Child Left Behind law. Please welcome Susan Castillo.
Thank you. I love listening to the proficiency teachers as they talk about their work. You can just sense that fire, right? They're so fired up about the work and have such passion for what they see happening with their students. And I tell you, if their students were up here, you would hear it in their students as well. Students who talk about their experience with this kind of instruction are so engaged in their learning, and they own their learning. And implicit in this type of instruction is a message to every single one of our students that they can do high-level, rigorous work, and that our teachers are going to stick with them until they do learn it. And that is quite, I would say, well, a change in the messages that we send to all of our kids in our schools. And it is just absolutely essential if we're going to get to where we need to get to, which is all kids gaining higher levels of skill and knowledge in the state of Oregon. And I see how well this proficiency work fits with the STEM work that we're doing across the state. As you know, here in the metro area, there's lots of excitement about the STEM work that's happening here. Well, we are building this out into regional STEM centers across the state as well, and bringing in new partners and having fabulous partners like Intel and PSU leading the way on how we can really engage people all over Oregon. And this proficiency work helps us be able to instill in our students confidence that they can learn in the STEM areas in a very deep way, and that they can have access to this rigorous content and be successful with this rigorous content in STEM. So the two just come together so well, and proficiency is going to help us be able to make the progress that we need to make in these areas. So we need to keep this work going. When we look at this work from the state level, we see the work of the BEC as being very critical to our efforts to build capacity across the state. Our capacity challenges are great in Oregon, and this is a way for us to really partner together in new ways, continually developing how this partnership works, and finding new ways that we can be efficient with the dollars that we have that go to professional development, and find new ways that we bring partners in and use these resources in a more efficient way to get more of our teachers access to this kind of professional development. So we're trying to be innovative with how we partner and engaging more partners around the state in this work as more teachers across Oregon are engaging in this work and needing more support and continual professional development and support and building the capacity around our state for how we can deliver that. BEC, I have to say, the endurance of the Business Education Compact is really quite phenomenal. I think these have been really challenging times, and over and over again, BEC comes through and thinks of another way that they could do their work that's going to keep it strong and keep it going, engaging new people and figuring out new partnerships, and certainly our partnership and helping us think about at the state level how we can partner differently as well, and help us be able to make more gains in those efforts. So I'm very, very honored to be here this morning to celebrate the work, Tamara, your leadership, and all of the work of the partners in this room that I know keep it going. The board members here, my deputy, Ed Dennis, is on the board of the BEC. We are very committed and supportive of this organization. And I think, the power, we all know what happens when we bring the private and the public sector together, and especially in education. We can make more progress when we do that successfully, and we're willing to just really open up new ways that we can partner together. So I really hope that this breakfast has gotten people fired up some more about this great work, and that you do want to be a part of making sure that more teachers get access to this very important support and training, and that we can help more teachers be able to stand up and say, wow, I thought I was doing a good job, but then I got involved in the proficiency-based teaching and learning, and now I would never go back. Kids who have this kind of instruction, I've heard them say, I don't want to go back to the other classrooms where teachers don't do this kind of instruction. I want all teachers to teach me in this way. And so let's make that happen. Let's all work together and keep the work moving forward. Thank you.